just to have a brief introduction around the topic. So in order to support Indonesia in achieving the Indonesia's NDC and the ambitious net zero target, blue carbon ecosystems such as mangroves, tidal marshes, and seagrass meadows become a very crucial element. So this blue sector has been globally recognized for their role in adapting and mitigating climate change. So on this particular session, we will discover further the potential of blue carbon ecosystem on tackling climate change issue and explore the financing opportunities and pathways for Indonesia's blue carbon agenda. Okay, I think we can start now because I can see Ibu Dirjen is on her way to the stage. Okay. We would like to invite the Deputy for Environmental and Forestry Management Coordination from the Coordinating Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Investment, Republic of Indonesia, Ibu Nani Hendiarti, to please come to the podium, Ibu, to deliver your keynote. Are you ready? Or you still need to have a few breaks? I can invite another speaker if you don't mind. Yeah. Thank you very much to all the attendees for coming to our beautiful Indonesia Pavilion. We really appreciate your time. I hope you can stay until the end, which is at 8:20. So I think we can get it started, Bu Nani or Pak Victor first. They're still having a little bit discussion. Okay. Oh, okay. We would like to invite Pak Victor Gustav Manopo. He is the Director of Marine Special Planning from the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries of Republic of Indonesia. Please give a huge appreciation for Pak Victor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. This is, guys, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here on behalf of Minister of Marine and Fisheries. Unfortunately, due to his health condition, he's unable to be here with us today. I'm honored to address you at the prestigious workshop on unlocking and potential of nature-based solution for adaptation and mitigation of climate change. We gather today to explore the significant contribution of nature-based solution in the form of a blue carbon ecosystem to support not only adaptation, but also mitigation actions. Ladies and gentlemen, the ocean role in climate change is clear. The ocean supports unique habitats, is interconnected with other components of the climate system through the global exchange of water, energy, and carbon. Therefore, all of us need to take concrete action now before it's too late. Approaches such as natural-based solution and ecosystem-based adaptation can be part of those actions. Indonesia, with extensive coastline and vast maritime territory, stand at the forefront of this global effort. The Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries of Indonesia implement a strategy for achieving the blue economy through 5 priority programs: expanding marine conservation area, quota-based capture fisheries, sustainable marine, coastal, and inland aquaculture, monitoring and surveillance of coastal and small islands area, and the last, clean up plastic waste in the sea through fishermen's participation. Blue carbon management in the context of climate change is an important part of the blue economy policy, especially the first and the fourth policy. Ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia is home to about 17% of blue carbon ecosystems. We have around 3.3 million hectares of mangrove and 1.8 million hectares of seagrass. With the ability to absorb and sequester carbon 3 to 4 times higher than the land ecosystem, the blue carbon ecosystem is recognized as the hidden gem of mitigation action. Indonesia enhanced nationally determined contribution. Above ground biomass of mangrove already counts as part of greenhouse gas emission reduction. The Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries, in collaboration with UNDP, has developed a seagrass blue carbon mitigation action profile that quantifies emission reduction from seagrass ecosystem. This document will also serve as a roadmap of Indonesia's effort to conserve and restore blue carbon habitats, increasing the carbon storage potential for the benefit of our planet and future generations. As adaptation action, blue carbon ecosystem, together with coral reef ecosystem, are part of ecosystem and landscape resilience. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, we recognize that addressing climate change is a complex challenge that requires commitment and diverse solutions. Mitigation and adaptation action in ocean and coastal areas will determine our path to more sustainable and resilient future. I am confident that the discussion and collaboration that will unfold here will contribute to a brighter, bluer future for our ocean and for all those who depend on them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy, for the keynote and opening remarks. Coming up next, we will hear some words from our Mrs. Deputy for Environmental and Forestry Management Coordination, Ibu Nani Hendiarti.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon, Excellencies, Mr. Victor Gustav Manopo, my esteemed colleague from DG from the Ministry of the Marine Affairs and Fisheries, Excellency Mr. Muhammad Salman Al-Hamadi, also my esteemed colleague from Ministry of the Climate Change and Environment of UAE, as an Assistant Undersecretary for Biodiversity and Marine Life Sector. Distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, in this good opportunity, I think we are together here with the same commitment to tackle some unprecedented challenges from climate change to biodiversity loss. So nature-based solution, or we call also ecological-based approach, offer a promising path forward. This approach not only mitigates the climate change, but also contributes to the sustainable environment. The potential of the nature-based solutions, ecological-based approach in the global is counted for 6.7 gigaton CO2 equivalent per year by 2030. And Indonesia has 15% of those resources. It's the same like Brazil. Our potential resources are from forests, mangrove, peatland, and also seagrass and seaweed. The highest capacities to mitigate the climate change in Indonesia are from mangrove and seagrass, which are known as a blue carbon ecosystem. Blue carbon is a relatively novel term. It was first introduced in the new Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change Guidelines in 2013. And on the following years, coastal wetland is recognized for its climate importance in Paris Accord, while the methodologies for the blue carbon measurement is also developed. Blue carbon project has grown interest all over the world. In the America, United States, and also I think we can see in the here. So then in Asia Pacific as well. So then we can see then the first to include blue carbon in the national greenhouse gas inventory, while also Costa Rica has launched its national blue carbon strategy. In Asia Pacific, China and Singapore established institutions to enhance capacity on the blue carbon issues, while Indonesia is knowledge blue carbon issue in the presidential regulation and preparing the blue carbon roadmap. So next, I would like to raise also the ocean issues, especially related with the blue carbon as internalized in Indonesia policy. Through the presidential regulation number 98 of the year 2021, government of Indonesia provides that marine sector policy or blue carbon can be considered as climate change mitigation and adaptation action to achieve NDC target. The sector from the ocean is currently included in the adaptation element of the key ecosystem and landscape resilience program. In the future, it is hoped that the marine sector can also contribute to the mitigation element, especially through the blue carbon. So if you can see here, this is our target in the second NDC. We can include also or to add the ocean sector in our NDC. So to implement blue carbon governance, several recommendations should be taken into consideration. So those are the first, multi-stakeholder integrated and appropriate participation, which includes but not limited to the NGO, university, private sectors, and strategic development partner and international financial institution. Research, the second one is research and development on the carbon stock and its MRV. And the third, increasing participation on the local level, both of the government and the communities. The fourth, law enforcement is needed to avoid further destruction and land use change. And the next, increasing economic value of the community. And the last, developing national roadmap for the blue carbon and government regulation on the mangrove management. Also, education and dissemination to raise awareness and blue carbon ecosystem important. And in addition to that, we have also consistent and the long-term finance and also enhance the national and the local mangrove working group. So we have in Indonesia, we have national task force in the central governments, between the related ministries, but also in the local governments, we have also like we call it task force, but in the local government for each province. So the government of Indonesia is preparing for the blue carbon sector inclusion in its NDC 2025. The step taken including building blue carbon emission profile, MRV, and regulation assessment in 2023, and survey also analyzes to produce baseline on the conservation and rehabilitation in 2024. The concrete action has been running with support from the World Bank through the Mangrove for Coastal Resilience project. preparation of the blue carbon offset readiness. This project aims to bring blue carbon emission reductions to market and create economic incentive to the community in the 100 villages. As a conclusion, through this decade, the blue carbon is already well known in the global community as a way to reduce emissions by nature-based solution, ecological-based approach. Indonesia itself is ready, acknowledge it through presidential decree, and also projecting ocean and blue carbon sector to be considered in the second NDC. And the roadmap of the blue carbon has been also established, and the projects are being undertaken to implement the roadmap, carbon offset readiness, and coastal community empowerment. So now also we have, since last year, we have a collaboration related with the mangrove. We call it Mangrove Alliance for Climate. Indonesia, together with UAE, is a co-lead for this, and I think we will be explain more with, from the Excellency Mr. Al-Hamadi, that I think this is very important step that we can bring mangrove to be like concrete action, yeah, by the countries that they have mangrove to contribute for the global climate change in specifically and not limited to the mitigation, but also for the adaptation, specifically for the island country, because we have also coordinated, we call it ICE, archipelagic and island states. So this will be connected with this effort. So thank you very much for your contribution, and hope from this session we will get more information about the blue carbon and what will be next in for our collaboration. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So without further delay, why don't we just invite our moderator who is going to introduce our speakers one by one. He's Rahman Adi Pradana. He's the Senior Policy Director from Indonesian Conservation. Please take the lead. Thank you.
All right, so thank you. Good evening, good afternoon, not yet evening. Way ahead of myself. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Adi Pradana. I am the Senior Policy Director from Conservation Indonesia. With the main partner of Conservation International, also supporting the government in the blue carbon initiatives. And happy to facilitate the discussion today. And we have amazing speaker following the presentation for the keynote speakers. So let me introduce one by one our amazing speakers. The first one we have from United Arab Emirates, His Excellency Muhammad Salman Al-Hamadi, PhD. Please come forward, Pak. The second one I think we will have online is Ambroise Brainer, the Senior Natural Resource Management Specialist of World Bank. Then we have Bapak Joby Triananda Hashim, the President Director of PT Sukovindo. Thank you, Pak, for being here. Please come ahead. And then we have Jack Hurt, Executive Director of the Tropical Forest Alliance of the World Economic Forum. Thank you, Jack, for being here. And then we also have the two last speakers, Pak Nyoman Widaryantanaya, Acting Vice President OEHES Pertamina Hulu Rokan, and Pak Erwin Sinisuka. Please, Pak Erwin, you can come over here. Who is the VP Facility Engineer of Pertamina Hulu Rokan. Thank you for your time, for being here. And I will start with His Excellency Al Hamadi. You will present about the Indonesia's and UAE's collaboration on Mangrove Alliance for Climate International Mangrove Research Center, which is established by the two governments on this Blue Carbon Partnership. Please, the time is yours.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm glad to be part of this excellent event to discuss the initiative and efforts in the nature-based solutions. And I would also would like to thank our colleague in Republic of Indonesia for their initiatives and collaboration, also in the nature-based solution and mangrove especially. Regarding the MAC, which is the Mangrove Alliance for Climate, it's an initiative and collaboration and partnership with our colleague in Indonesia. And the aim of the alliance is to collect all the global initiatives and to sustain the mangrove, to exchange experience and results of research between countries, in addition to also put all these efforts together. You know, we cannot compete the climate change alone with a single and scattered efforts. So the initiative will help us to be together, united, and facing of the climate change, and to face the power of the nature. We cannot do it alone or with a single effort. And nowadays, we have more than 25 countries are participating and joining the alliance, and also will open also the door for NGOs and entities that an organization that also would like to be part of this alliance.
Thank you so much, Pak Ahmadi. All right. I understand we have Mr. Ambroise Brainer of the World Bank as well online. I'm just checking with the organizer. Hello, Ambroise. Okay, I can see your face in the big screen now. Hi.
Yeah, you're right. Good evening was the right one. Good evening here in Jakarta.
I'm sorry, but I don't think we can hear you well. I'm just checking with the organizer of the audio.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, can you speak one more time, Ambroise?
Yes, good evening, everyone. No?
I don't think we can still hear you well, or is it just me? Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Is it better? No? Okay, maybe, Ambroise, my apology. If you don't mind, we will try to fix the audio issue. And now we'll move to the next speaker, Pak Joby Trinanda Hashim, President Director of PT Sukovindo. Pak Joby, the time is yours.
Check. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Her Excellencies, Mr. Muhammad Salmah Al-Mahamadi. Thank you for coming to our Indonesian Pavilion. Her Excellency, Ministry, and all the participants. Today, we like to give some presentation. Let allow us to give some presentation about our initiative in Indonesia regarding the nature-based solution. So, first slide, I'd like to introduce our company. Our company is called Sukovindo. We are the largest and the oldest TIC company in Indonesia. The slide, can you prepare the slide? Sorry. OC, can you show the slide?
Organizer, can you please present the slides of Pak Joby?
All right. All right. Sukovindo have about 1,800 experts, and we have is about 194 assurance services, and governance belongs 95% of our share in Sukovindo. If we're looking about the mangrove ecosystem in Indonesia, we have is about 3.36 million hectare of mangrove. It's about 20 to 25% of total world mangrove area is in Indonesia. Each hectare, correct me if I'm wrong, Bu, is about 123.3 ton CO2 equivalent per hectare per year. So avoiding mangrove loss in Indonesia could potentially reduce the carbon emission is about 20 to 25% total carbon worldwide in 1 year. Can you make a slide? Okay. According to Indonesian Enhanced NDC 2022, Indonesia has emission reduction target as much as 31.89% by 2030 in also funding, and also about 42.3% with international support. So what is the Sukovindo's role? Sukovindo now is very active to support the government through the green and eco port. What is the green port and what is an eco port? Can you make a next slide, please? Green port is the environmental conscious port who also develop sustainable port that not only meet with the environmental requirement, but also uplifted the economic interest for the port. Sukovindo provide consultant service through the port authorities to implement the green and the eco port. Next slide. Sukovindo have the rating tools to help the port authorities to follow the guidelines to be a green and eco port. And this green and eco port is the government mandatory, who push the port authorities to have the environmental application in their port. And it's very, very active now, Sukovindo, to support that things. One of the criteria in the green and smart port scheme is access about the assessment of the green and the access smart port, like the management asset, technical aspect, and digital aspect. The most crucial component in assessment the green and smart port scheme is environmental component. So we put the criteria is about 9% of the total calculation. It's only talking about the environment. We try to push the port authority to consider about the port. There's two things we ask the port authority to be considered. First, about the port biodiversity management, and the other one is the implementation of the port biodiversity management. The implementation of this such important aspect is try to compliance on the environmental assessment aspect, including the mangrove system, restoration, and the conservation. So we push the port authority to develop the port, develop the mangrove, which is the mangrove is also important for the environment. So by integrating the green and smart port scheme in the port, we simultaneously help the port decarbonization effort and the implementation of the nature-based solution. Next slide. The restoration and conservation of mangrove ecosystem program serve a benchmark for the implementation of port biodiversity management sub-criteria. We put high score 0.95 for the very good response from the port, and also 0.48% is only for the good implementation and 0% for the bad. So with that things, we ask the port to make a competition between the other port to make sure they get the very good numbers in the calculation of the criteria. Next slide. So we try to Port Authority to make the mangrove restoration and conservation program, because with the restored mangrove, the carbon reduction will be greater than 23.5 metric ton of carbon dioxide per hectare. When the avoid mangrove area loss result in emission reduction is about greater than 42.9. If we add that things, every port we calculate can be reduced 65.5 metric ton carbon dioxide per hectare per year. And if calculated, Indonesia is about 100 port. At least each port can develop 100 hectares of the mangrove. Totally is about 665,000 metric ton of carbon dioxide per year can be absorbed with this initiative. And these things will support the NDC target and the decarbonization agenda in Indonesia. We are not only talking about the mangrove for the green, to support the green and eco port, but also we calculated with the mangrove program also can support the benefit for the local people and local government. World Bank make a calculated that with the mangrove system can support is about 150 million US dollar per year. That's a great numbers of the economic Indonesia. And finally, let's accelerating port decarbonization by implementation nature-based solution to achieve and green smart port. In concluding the insightful journey, I extend my sincere gratitude to each participant, speaker, and partner who have contributed to richness of our discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Joby. Yes, it's really interesting about the green port. Now let's try back again to Ambroe online. If we can hear you correctly.
Good evening.
Yes, we can finally hear you, Ambroe. All right.
Okay, great.
Please, the time is yours to explain about the strategies in maximizing Indonesia NBS, including mangroves.
Thank you. So I guess I was a little bit like all this seagrass, this blue carbon in the seagrass and the mangrove. You never heard about it before, you couldn't hear this benefit. So it's quite recent, as Bunani mentioned, and great to see you, Bunani, Pa Victor. But it's now something of great interest for the blue carbon benefit that it provides. My name is Ambroise. I'm based in Jakarta. I work for the World Bank on blue economy. I manage the oceans portfolio here in Indonesia, which is a great privilege. I got marine biology training, so being in Indonesia is like the top country in the world for marine biodiversity, marine and coastal ecosystem, but also blue carbon. So last time I went on leave with the family in the eastern part of Indonesia. I was diving with my 12-year-old daughter, and I had a chance to see so many marine turtles, while my daughter, she was even more lucky. She saw a dugong, this huge white-gray animal, marine mammals living in the sea. And we were with many other tourists in the Komodo National Park. And these animals, they really depend on seagrass. They feed on seagrass. So all the benefits of seagrass for tourism, for instance, is really important and obvious. The link between also the mangrove and the fisheries, because in the fisheries benefits, there has been a publication in Indonesia specifically, quite recent, looking at the link between the income of fishing community and the degradation or the conservation of mangrove. There was a clear link for fishing communities where mangrove has been degraded, that the income from fishing was going down. So tourists benefit, fisheries benefit, coastal protection benefit. You can see some community actually planting mangrove in front of their house to deal with the sea level rise, the flooding caused by sea level rise. So all these benefits are really important, but not only that, the blue carbon benefits of this ecosystem and seagrass and mangrove in particular in Indonesia are also tremendous. So 17% of the blue carbon reservoir is here in Indonesia. Indonesia is one of the top 3 countries in the world with the highest blue carbon potential. So really important ecosystem for biodiversity, for livelihoods, for tourism, for greenhouse gas sequestration and storage. But unfortunately, in a bad shape. So about 40% degraded already or lost of seagrass and mangrove in Indonesia. So urgent action needed to change that trend and make sure that they can continue to deliver all these benefits, including the carbon storage benefit. Luckily, in Indonesia, there are strong policies, as mentioned, Bunani, Pavilion, strong support, strong recognition of the importance of these ecosystems for biodiversity, for social, and for the social economy development of the country. And at the World Bank, the way we support this effort for the government currently are through 3 means. First, data acquisition, analytics. The second one is policy implementation of activities on the ground to deal with the threats that these ecosystems are facing. And the third one is about access to finance. And at the moment, we do that through 2 big projects. Bunani mentioned one of them, the Mangrove for Coastal Resilience program. So we're supporting the ministry, several institutions in Indonesia with mangrove restoration and mangrove management. It's a $419 million project for 5 years. One of the objectives, for instance, through the focusing on the data, mangrove do have good maps, have been mapped in Indonesia, but one of the objectives of the program is to improve and refine those maps, because knowing where these ecosystems are is the number 1 priority if you want to understand their blue carbon potential and potentially get payment for this carbon benefit that they provide. Another example is the Lautra project with other institutions such as the one Victor is working with the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries, where the focus on data acquisition here is for seagrass. For seagrass, the situation is a little bit less developed than mangrove in terms of where they are. The map for seagrass, there has been different estimation, but with a big variability in this estimate. So at the moment, the Lautra project it's a $210 million project, also 5 years. Will be supporting KKP in refining and developing this map of where are the seagrass. In addition to identifying where those important crucial blue carbon ecosystems are, those 2 projects are also supporting the identification of the carbon potential, how much is stored in this mangrove and in this seagrass ecosystem. Another part of these 2 projects is focusing on the policy side and activities. For example, the mangrove project, as mentioned, Bunani is putting in place this task force at the national level, but also at the provincial level, ensuring coordination between many different actors that have responsibility in terms of sustainable management of the mangrove. There's also a new policy, cross-sectorial policy, the first one that tackles mangrove nationally, that is currently being drafted through the mangrove program. In parallel, through the Lautra project, focusing on seagrass and coastal ecosystem, the intervention here is focused on marine protected areas. At the moment, Indonesia...
Amrois, you have 2 more minutes. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, thank you. So at the moment, Indonesia got important policy in terms of protection of this blue carbon ecosystem, which are the marine protected areas. And there is this push to establish more of those and to better manage the existing one. More of those MPAs, because currently the MPAs only protect less than 20% of the mangrove in the country and about 40 to 50% of the seagrass. So there is a need to expand these MPAs to better protect those critical ecosystems. Some other activities around restoration, 75,000 hectares of mangrove to be restored through the mangrove project, restoration of seagrass through the ocean project, and something that is also across the two projects is the focus on livelihood. So not only protecting these ecosystems and calculating how much carbon they store, but also helping the communities diversify their livelihoods. And finally, as I mentioned, access to finance is also important. So because those managing those ecosystems as a cost, and so how do you ensure that there is sustainable finance for this ecosystem and the communities living around this ecosystem? You can so the mangrove project, for instance, working with Bunani, they are looking at preparing the blue carbon program, so to be in a position to be able to get payment for the carbon that is being sequestered in the mangrove that is planted through this project. And through the Lautra project, and I will finish with this, there's an initiative called the Coral Bond, where looking at impact investor that could potentially provide finance upfront for better management of those marine protected area and those marine ecosystems, and then getting payment from outcome-based payer, which could be in the future, once the blue carbon program are ready, could potentially pay the investor back thanks to the payment received from the sequestration of blue carbon in those ecosystems. And I will stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Royce. We've already have 3 speakers and halfway through, but I already see a lot of connection between the government efforts with the MDBs, World Bank, and the private sector, particularly on how we can integrate the blue carbon elements, protecting nature, in not only in planning, but also financing, right? Now we will hear more from Jack Hurd of the World Economic Forum, who is hopefully, as a convener, can show how these all different pieces can be connected. Go ahead, time is yours.
Great, well, thank you very much. Connections, this is what we do at the World Economic Forum. Ibu Nani, Pak Victor, His Excellency Al-Mahamidi, thank you very much, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, for being here today. As mentioned, my name is Jack Hurd. I head the nature work at the World Economic Forum, and I also run something called the Tropical Forest Alliance, which I can talk more about later at some point in time. But first of all, it's really great to be in this pavilion today. I've spent a lot of my professional career in Indonesia. These mangroves are not from the Darawan Islands, but the Darawan Islands in East Kalimantan are very special to me and my heart. So really happy to be here, so thanks very much. So I'm going to talk about a couple things in the next 5 minutes. One, a little bit about our experiences with blue carbon ecosystems, and then maybe where we need to go with blue carbon ecosystems. So those are 2 things over the next 5 minutes, and I'll try to keep it at 5 minutes, Adi. Apologies for that. So could I have the next slide, please? Okay, everybody in this room knows all about blue carbon ecosystems. I don't have to repeat a lot of this stuff, but I did just want to call attention to 2 things. We call these carbon, but they're so much more than carbon, right? Often carbon gets associated with a financing mechanism, but these ecosystems are so much more important than just a carbon sink. The second thing is, one of the ways I like to think about them is they are part of our natural infrastructure. They're something that a country has that's an asset of that country that serves a wide variety of purposes. So it's not just about carbon, it's about all these other things that go with carbon and with the natural infrastructure. And I think when we think about it as infrastructure, we might start thinking about different ways we're going to finance it, which a number of speakers have spoken about already. So next slide, please. Lots of numbers on the screen. I'm not going to read them all, but 2 I want to pay attention to. The fact that there are $10 billion US sort of hanging around looking to invest in blue carbon ecosystems. That's a significant amount of money that can be brought into this space for the protection, the restoration, and the sustainable management of those systems that provide so many values for society. The second one, which is sort of hidden at the bottom, is the 5X. So what that basically refers to is that areas with intact blue carbon ecosystems, specifically mangroves, are only 1/5 as likely to get negatively impacted by storm surges, by cyclones, and by other traumatic weather events. So this goes back to the point I was making about the natural infrastructure. These cyclones are part of a these mangroves are part of a coastal defense that we want to think about when we do national planning and national action. Next slide, please. So Ibu Nani mentioned this earlier, these high quality blue carbon principles and guidance. So I think we know that there's a lot of conversation going on in the world about blue carbon and how to invest in blue carbon from a climate perspective or from a carbon perspective. There's quality of demand and there's quality of supply. What these principles really do is define both of those. So what goes into a really high quality blue carbon project is directly linked to who's going to be buying credits from such projects. We want only the most discerning buyers who really understand what they're getting involved with, and we only want projects that are at the highest caliber of quality, both in terms of impacts on livelihoods, impacts on biodiversity, as well as the accounting principles and such that underpin them. Next slide, please. So I want to mention 3 quick projects that have sort of been generated by the World Economic Forum with some of our business partners, and they just show sort of some of the impact that we've been able to have in dealing with corporate partners on this. Salesforce is a big global company that deals with human resource and systems management. So Salesforce has been at a leader in this space for many years, really trying to focus specifically on numbers, lots of trees planted, lots of areas restored, and equally important, trying to build the human and institutional capacity of organizations working on mangroves in particular, but blue carbon more broadly. So this is something we always want to think about, I think, or at least our experiences have led us to believe we need to do really high quality projects, and part of quality is also building capacity and institutional capacity and human resource capacity to carry those on. Next slide, please. So Beiku is a Chinese company that's an online and an offline provider of services regarding the housing market. What they've figured out as a way to do is to link the behavior of people who are engaged with them online to very specific investment opportunities that can be made for conservation. So in this case, they've been able to get their users to get excited about investments in nature, and they've put a significant amount of resources and manpower, if you will, into coastal wetland issues in the Fujian coastal wetlands, but also more recently in Guangdong province. And there's a number of enterprises out there that have tried to figure out how do you tap into consumer awareness as a way to raise money and channel that in. The next slide, please. So Ericsson, another big global company in the telecom sector. Ericsson has really focused on a number of things, but most importantly from my perspective is this notion of survival rate in its blue carbon projects. A lot of trees get planted, but often the death rates are really high. And when it comes down to restoration, the easiest part is planting trees. The hardest part is make sure those things grow into some notion of a sustainable ecosystem that mimics what was there once before. So this focus on bringing AI and other technologies in to help understand what's going on in the space and using that as a way to really raise the survival rates, I think is quite interesting. Next slide, please. So, okay, those are 3 great projects. That's lovely, but we know we have significant opportunities to scale this stuff, right? There's an estimation by the Mangroves Breakthrough Financial Roadmap that says we can probably mobilize about $4 billion by 2030 to go into this space. And there's a number of different types of capital that can be raised from that. Most mangrove and most blue carbon ecosystem projects are grant funded right now. But there's these ideas that there's other sources of funding out there. We've got to work these through a little bit, but the notion that you can get concessional financing from maybe multilateral development banks, you can get commercial financing that's linked up with some de-risking mechanism, or straight up commercial financing where people are investing in the mangrove because they think it's going to generate some sort of risk-adjusted rate of return that's going to be appropriate with other forms of investment. So we need to be thinking about ways we can bring different forms of financing into this space. I think the mangrove breakthrough as an entity is starting to really generate some interest globally on this concept, but the financial roadmap is something we really have to start paying attention to. I think a number of the other speakers have brought this issue of financing up. Could I have the next slide, please? So what we're trying to do with the idea of, this was mentioned on the slide at the beginning, the Blue Carbon Action Partnership. We're trying to work on the Blue Carbon Action Partnership at two levels. One, nations around the world, Indonesia being a lead nation in this space, working with governments to achieve their blue carbon ambitions. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment. And then at the global level, trying to identify what are the big issues that we can do to bring more energy into this space. What does it mean in terms of finance? What does it mean in terms of policy incentives? What sort of data and science needs to underpin this? And if you think about the relationship with maybe it's green carbon, tropical forests. There's been a lot of energy invested in tropical forests, inland tropical forests, specifically in the tropics. We need that systematic and consistent amount of energy brought into the mangrove and seagrass and salt marshes field as well. Okay, so this is what the Blue Carbon Action Partnership is designed to do. Work at the national level with specific countries, and then work at the global level on the big global issues that touch down in multiple places. Could I have the next slide, please? So there's some elements here, and I think this is my last slide, so don't worry. There's some elements here of a Blue Carbon Action Partnership that I think are worth paying attention to. The idea is to help create a common goal, and Ibu Nani has mentioned earlier, there's a roadmap that the Indonesian government has developed in this space. Other countries are not quite as far along as Indonesia, but developing a common goal and a set of objectives and an action plan, and most importantly, a way to finance that action plan. An action plan without a financing plan is just an action plan, right? Something to be done rather than something we know we're going to be able to do. The second one is on coordination, so taking sort of a whole of government approach. Indonesia in particular has a really complex government structure with the national government, with the provincial government, with the district governments, with sub-districts, et cetera. So sort of taking this whole of government approach, I think is something that's really important, especially if we go back and think about it, as mentioned at the outset, as this is vital natural infrastructure. And then the next couple of things around leading regionally and globally, engaging different stakeholders within the country, whether they're government or businesses or NGOs or other members of civil society. And then ultimately, it's about scale. Sorry, I think there's one other slide, or maybe there's something that's supposed to happen. If you could go to the next slide, please. Maybe the next slide just highlights that issue there on scaling. So I think this is the challenge for all of us. There's been a lot of really good work done on blue carbon in Indonesia and elsewhere. And this is the trick that we've got to figure out. And it's largely about policy incentives and financial incentives. So I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack. All right. We have heard from the government and then from the World Bank, the World Economic Forum as convener. Now we also want to hear one more from the business or private sector. We have Pak Erwin, followed by Pak Nyoman, who's from Pertamina Rokan Hulu. Pertamina is the largest oil and gas company in Indonesia, and they will explain about the wetland construction value as nature-based solutions. Pak Erwin will start, and then followed by Pak Nyoman. Please, Pak Erwin, the time is yours.
Thank you, Mas Adi. So, Excellency Ibu Nani, as Deputy Minister Coordinator Forestry and Environment, Excellency Pak Victor Gustav Manopo, Excellency Mr. Mohammed Salman Al-Hamadi. Thank you very much for joining with us this afternoon during your hectic time. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. So, first of all, I would like to thank you very much for the opportunity given to us for Pertamina Hulu Rokan to share what we have done and what we learned from implementation-based nature solution for our field. So just I'll make it a presentation very fast. Just skip for the video. Just jump to slide 4, please. Slide 4. Next.
Slide 4, please.
Yes. Yes. This is the context for our colleagues later on to explain the result of what we have done and implement the wetland for our field in the Rokan field. So as you know that the Rokan field, we call as a Pertamina Hulu Rokan located in central Sumatra Basin. So we are in between across 5 region and also the 2 city. So our area around 6,200 kilometers square. And this is a very big, basically. So this is the mature field. We have operated the field since 1952. So this is more older than my age, basically. And almost the same like my father's age, basically, that the field has been produced. So right now, this field already operated and recovery factor is around 49% basically. There is a 42 and more than 11 billion stock barrel oil has been produced. So we can imagine right now a lot of water that we produce from this major field. The production still around 170,000. So if we take a look here, 92% of the water produced from the field injected again to the formation, and this is for the pressure maintenance to keep producing from the well itself. And the 4% we dispose through disposal well, and the remaining of the water that we use and utilize the nature base through the wetland. So this is to give the context because at the moment, since 2 years ago, we have a massive drilling program in the field. We have 28 drilling rigs right now working in the area, and more than 500 wells we drill per year. So this is around that we estimate in the next 2-3 years we produce water around 12 million barrels a day. So this is the most important thing, why the wetland is important, because this is the key for us to enable the production from the major field and tapping the energy remaining in the basin itself. And this is to support the energy for Indonesia itself because our production is almost 27% of Indonesian production. So this is a very critical for us on the private sector, how that we can support the government for the energy national. The next slide, please. So this is just to give a context. I will not talk a lot of this one. Just if you take a look from the picture itself, so you can see what is the wetland itself. Wetland is a sea. And before the sea, A and B, basically that is the processing, water processing, gas processing, and also the oil processing that we have in the plant. So C is a wetland right now because this is how that we can dispose the water through the nature-based solution and make it the environment is a very minimum impact and also advantage to the community itself. Because no matter what, and also the time in progress, we are living together with the community. So the community is a must for us to win the heart and also make them happy with the presence of the Pertamina Hulu Rokan in our area itself. So this is the context for Pertamina Hulu Rokan, how we tapping, how we provide the wetland to enable the producing and drilling more wells through the mature field. So I invite Pak Nyoman to give the outcome and the result of the wetland itself in the Weka Rokan. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak. Pak Nyoman, the time is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Erwin. Good afternoon, Ibu Nani, Pak Victor, Your Excellency, Mr. Alhamadi. I would like to continue what Pak Erwin mentioned earlier about our profile, company profile in Pertamina Hulu Rokan. So if we go to the next slide, please. Yes, Pak Erwin mentioned about the technology of building a wetland that help us in what you call cleaning and polishing our produce water so that it can be discharged according to the parameter allowed by the permit that are or were issued by Ministry of Environment and Forestry of Republic of Indonesia. I would like to share, this is the first one actually, the success story in our company, our constructed wetland in our gathering station. We call it gathering station Petani. In gathering station Petani, which is about maybe one slide before this one. Yep, the area is about 5,000 square meter, and then the produce water that is currently being handled is about 19,000 barrel of water, produce water per day. And then the type of vegetation or trees that are planted in the wetlands are mostly woody and herbaceous plants. All of the plants here are selected, and all of them are native vegetation coming from the surrounded area. And it was, or they were tested to stand not only the quality of the produce water that we produce, but also the temperature, our biggest enemy in what you call growing our plant in our wetland. As you can see on the second picture there, we have the constructed wetland with a small, some kind of bowl that we plant the vegetation so that it can grow. It comes from experimental ways together when we collaborate together with the ministry and then the local community and also the expert from the universities. Some of the alternatives on how to grow these plants, on how to grow this vegetation are tested, and these are some of the methods and type of vegetation that currently working in Petani gathering station. On the right side, you will see that it's the real situation of the Petani gathering station. Earlier, we see the layout of the produce water treatment plant layout, but this is the current condition right now. Next slide. Yep, these are just showing you the type of vegetation based on their resistance to the temperature. From the left is the one with the higher resistance to the temperature. And we put this in what we call a pre-wetland area. And then this will go, we are using a different type of vegetation with maybe a lower temperature resistance. And then we plant them in a sequence before we can meet the required temperature allowed by the permit, and then we can discharge it to the environment. Next slide. Some of the performance of the constructed wetland, it's very easy actually. The technology is not that complicated. As mentioned by Pak Erwin earlier, we don't need any power because all of the flows, the produce water flows, are using gravity only. So we construct the wetland by arranging the level so that the water can flow from the beginning until the end. If we compare between the facility where we dispose our produce water and the wetland, you can see that we are, this year alone, just to give you some information that we started early this year after we successfully selected the right vegetation, the right tree for our wetland. So far we have reduced about 1,341 tons of CO2 equivalent. And this is just a small step for us because currently there are about 14 additional wetland that we are constructed so that for sure we will have a lot more reduction in carbon just by eliminating the power that we use to pump the water into the disposal well. Next slide, please. Earlier I mentioned about the collaboration with the local community. One of the technology that we use to arrange the flow is by putting a vertical filter. Vertical filter is something that was developed, that was constructed using coconut fibers. And then the purpose of this coconut fiber as a vertical filter is to lower the flow and then also to capture if there is some small particle of oil, it will be captured there, and then later on the filter itself can be backwashed and then can be reused again until the end of the the usage where we have to replace the filter again. Next slide. Before this one. Can we go back to the slide, please? Yeah, one more. Yeah, as a summary, the composition. This is very one thing that is pretty complex actually. We may know a little bit about how to produce oil. We may know a little bit about how we produce our fluid and then separate gas, oil, and water. But we know a little bit, maybe so little about the plant, the vegetation selection that is suitable for our facility. So even though we have a success story in Petani Gathering Station, this is not applicable to all of the other 14 that we are still building right now, that we are still constructing right now. So the composition, planting, and method of the constructed wetland cannot be generalized. We cannot apply the same vegetation in Petani GS to other wetland in other gathering station. So we still need to collaborate that with our expert, with the expert from the ministry, and also with the what we call by local wisdom. Because believe it or not, when you remember that bowl, right, where we plant our trees, where we plant our plant or vegetation, actually the idea is coming from the supplier who supplied us with the vegetation and plantation. It's not easy to plant something and then we put water on top of it because the water will just flow and then the soil will just wash away, leaving only the plant, the dead plant, and the water. So we come up with that technology with the bowl, and then we put some kind of a media there, we plant, and finally it succeeds. It's successful. Okay, so it's just one more one more minute. So further analysis and testing are necessary to assess the effectiveness of using aquatic plants and growing media as a treatment methodology for produce water. The last one is currently our wetlands have successfully and have the ability to lower the pollutant coming from the produce water. Our biggest enemy right now is the temperature. As we know that our ambient temperature are getting higher and higher, and then this is a nature-based solution where we are relying more on the flow, the speed of the water flowing, but the ambient temperature are really affecting the heat transfer process. So we are still doing all of the experiment, all of the discussion, all of the collaboration with the university on the right method of planting the vegetation, the type of vegetation, and also the size, and maybe the what you call the design flow of our produce water process. I think that's all that I can say, Pak Adi.
Thank you. Please give a round of applause to all the presenter. That's all right. Now that we're finally at the end, and we have 6 minutes, if my clock is correct, for question and answer. And I will ask to the participants, audience, if they have burning question that would like to raise to the 6 panelists in front, one online. Or I myself has a burning question if no one wants to ask. Yes, please. Yeah, thank you, Mbak Mona.
Thank you for all remarkable speakers today. Your sharing is very interesting. One question for me, especially for the Indonesian speakers. All of this project regarding to NBS and also wetlands, which one of this project that already processed to SRN system, National Standardization System, to register the carbon removal or sequestration calculations? And if you already underway the progress, so you can share with us what is the lesson learned that we can get from your process. Thank you.
Thank you. May I know your name and
Yeah,
institution?
I'm Dia from Astra.
From Master. Thank you. So so for our 2 speakers from the private sectors, whether you have experience in registering your activities as carbon credits producing projects, right? Maybe either Pak Erwin or Pak Pak Joby, silakan.
Okay. Check. Test. Okay. Check 1. One.
Bapak mau di sini? Tes.
Thank you for the question. We are from Sukopindo, make a lot of assisting to the local companies, especially for Pertamina. Such as Pertamina Lahendong 5 and 6 is already success to be calculated the carbon, and now it's already sold under the Jakarta Stock Exchange, Indonesian Stock Exchange. Nowadays, we support Pelindo through the Green Port initiative to calculate it, what is their carbon can retain for their activities. Now also we support PLN. Now PLN, a lot of the PLN power plant. Now we are support their activities. How can we calculate it? How big their initiative in regard to reduce the carbon productivity? I think that's my question.
Thank you. Do we have any other question? Okay, one last one. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Achintya from the Indian Youth Climate Network. My question is directed to His Excellency Mr. Mohammed.
I'm sorry, we cannot hear you clearly.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Achintya from the Indian Youth Climate Network, and my question is directed to His Excellency Mr. Muhammad Salman, sir. So a couple of years back, you were, implementing the cloud seeding technology to bring down, water. Unfortunately, in India, we were trying to do it the same technology. We used the same technology, but we failed. So what's your advice as to how these solutions can be implemented in regional levels, and is there any better way to, modify it to the regional context and, help, solve the issue regionally as well?
Okay, so if I got the question correctly, is between the technological approach and nature-based solution that we are discussing right now. So how do you balance the experience maybe from UAE of technological approach in cloud seeding, if I'm mistaken, right?
Yeah.
And maybe you can connect it with the NBS that we're discussing right now, today.
Sorry. Thank you for the question. Usually, the technologies may work in one place and did not work in another place. And the development of these technologies is, it depends about the techniques that you use. I know that in some countries they use a rocket to do the seedling. And in my country, we do the airplane. And it needs some circumstances like humidity, certain humidity, certain wind pattern in order to make it happen. And sometimes, for example, if you try like 10 attempts, maybe 50% of them is succeed, not all of them. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. All right, if there's no other question, I'd like to give the opportunity to each speaker to conclude with one sentence of how do you think, the keyword I think is collaboration, right? Scaling, how to advance the blue carbon initiatives together. Because World Bank has, the finance to do it, WEF has the network to do it, government has the authority, the power to do it, and the private sector has sometimes like means and boots on the ground and work with the communities to do it. So can you please give just one sentence to wrap up from your own experience how to advance on blue carbon and NBS? I'll start with you. Yes, please.
I'll start. I wanted to talk about our research center, the Mangrove International Research Centers, where it will take place in Bali and Korakora Island. The center aims to explore more the mangrove, the physiology, biology, ecology, entomology, and biotechnology of mangrove. So the aim is to explore more and to make it more economically viable and expand the benefits of mangrove to the rest of the world.
Any other taker, Pak Erwin? Or, okay, Pak Erwin, please.
Yeah. So probably what I can say that collaboration is the key success, how that we are going to reduce the carbon in the world. The collaboration among the government who hold the regulation itself, collaboration with the expertise, the university, institution, and technology provided how that we can tapping more resource without sacrifice the environment. And the last one is basically that the private sector is the key to make it happen for that one, because it's not only about the dollars itself, but how that we are going to protect the future. This is what we have right now. What we have right now is a loan from the next generation. I think that's all. Collaboration that need to be grown together for that one. Thank you very much.
Okay, one sentence, Pak, and quick, sorry.
I think this is mostly about money. If we're gonna save our blue carbon ecosystems, we need a collaborative approach to planning, management, and finance.
Thank you. One sentence.
We need a strong commitment from all parties to make this initiative have a good future in the world. Thank you.
Pak. Pak Nyoman, one last, and then Amroy, one last sentence.
Yeah,
please.
my last sentence will be, let's do it now, because I remember maybe not so long ago, maybe 5-10 years ago, the cost to purchase a land is not that high. But right now, people are encroaching more and more into our operation, and then suddenly the land that we need to use, that we need to construct into building additional wetland is becoming more and more expensive.
Thank
So
you.
the key word is now, I think.
Thank you.
Thank
Last
you.
one, Amroy, one sentence. We cannot hear Amroy.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
Yes,
No?
please. One last sentence. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So empowering communities to continue to take care of the ecosystem they live around.
All right. Thank you, Amroy, and thank you so much. I'll give you the time back to the MC. Thank you. Give a round of applause for everyone.